Kellen Moore's no longer there. Who's calling the plays?
Mike
Mike
McCarthy.
McCarthy. So the
And Brian
pressure's on
Schottenheimer.
him. You're the head coach. You're the play caller. You blamed Kellen Moore for your shortcomings. Team is loaded. It's on the play caller and it's on the head coach in order to put Dak Prescott in the best position to succeed and not let him F up. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Overthink It Podcast. My name is Brett James, and I'm joined by my co-host, Darien Harris, and we're here today to talk about the NFC West and the NFC East, talking about our schedule preview for these teams this upcoming season. Football is right around the corner, my guy. We just wrapped up the NFL preseason. That means we're going to be heading into a transition week before the players get ready and ramped up for week one of the 2023 regular season. Man, how you feeling about regular season football coming up, my guy?
Feeling good, man. We finally have some legitimate football being played. No more preseason takes, even though I've been giving a lot of those. Just strictly football. Week one preparation begins next week. We have the grace period where players can kind of just cool down before the season begins. And then I know they're in preparation right now, and also they're making their final cuts. I think final cuts will be tomorrow.
Yep, the 29th as we record this on the 28th.
Yes. So, yeah, man, it's time. We are finally here. I'm excited. It's going to be, well, actually, my bad. I'm thinking following Sunday is the next game. No, next Thursday is the first game of the NFL season. So it's going to be fun, man. I'm excited. I'm just ready for football, man. I'm ready for it. We got college football a little bit this weekend. Now, we start transitioning into that good old football, and the fall weather should be soon approaching as well. So.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, it's great, though. I mean, it's great seeing everybody wrap up the NFL Week 3 preseason. Our Jags went undefeated, which that was kind of dope to see. You got to see the depth with the team. We put out a good performance, and obviously you're very grateful that everyone came out of that game healthy at the very end after they had to cancel it. We don't even need to get into that whole thing, but it was great just to see, like I said, preseason football. We got training. We got cuts coming tomorrow afternoon, I believe, the 29th. Everyone has to go down to the 53-man roster. Like you said, everyone's getting prepared for week one. We got college football all this week. And then also Thursday night football, the first game of the season will be Lions at Arrowhead Stadium taking on the reigning and defending NFL Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs. But really kind of getting outside of the preseason, and let's actually kind of get prepared and talking about some schedule predictions and some team predictions really going into this season. I want to talk about the NFC West too, because I think that this is a division over the last couple of years that's been consistently very good. And right now, I mean, you've still got two really good teams right there in the NFC from what it looks like with the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. But Darren, I want to talk to you today first about Seattle and what you actually expect for this team, because Geno Smith surprised a lot of people last season after Seattle was in their first year post Russell Wilson. And we saw how prolific Geno Smith and Pete Carroll were last season in their first year together. So really talk to me about what you expect from this team this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to watch this team this year. I think they're going to be a very high-powered offense. You have, DK and Tyler Lockett still around, but now you bring in Jackson Smith-Njigba, their first-round pick out of the Ohio State University. Even though he might miss a few weeks due to his wrist injury, she's going to be in the thick of the things when they make this playoff run this season, I believe. You have a good running back room with Kenneth Walker III and also Zach Charbonnet, another rookie they brought in. They still have a very solid offensive line. Defensively, there should be a lot better of a unit, right, in comparison to last year. They're healthy. They have Jamal Adams back. You bring back Bobby Wagner. You have Tariq Woolen, who is arguably their best defender. You have Devon Witherspoon, the rookie they brought in as their 5th overall selection. That was a surprise to everybody. You still have
Quandre Diggs, still a good safety back there in the secondary.
Yeah, Quandre Diggs. You still have a very solid with Jordan Brooks, the other linebacker opposite side of Bobby. They bring in some solid defensive linemen too. I think the biggest thing for them this year is how can they fare off, creating pressure and getting after the quarterback. I think they're one of the worst teams when it came to sacks last season, but overall, I'm definitely amped for the Seahawks team. I definitely have it written down that they could possibly sneak and win the NFC West this year. Who knows? I mean, I could definitely see it. Also, I'm hoping that last season from Geno Smith wasn't an anomaly, right? Because he played like an MVP quarterback. He was amazing last year. I think he kind of even kills this year. I think he kind of gives you around that 26 touchdowns. I don't think he goes for 30 plus this year. But I think the supporting cast around him will be, even more efficient and better than it was last year. And defensively, they'll also be able to win games, rely on that defense instead of in comparison to last year when their offense was their bread and butter. So Pete Carroll has something very special out there, man. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they sneak away with this division. But I'm also hoping that Geno doesn't plateau. But the thing about it is that kind of gave me a good confidence of Geno not plateauing is they didn't even bother to play him in the preseason. So that lets me know that they feel confident about him right now and that he's going to be their guy going forward this season. Possibly, if they can win that division, man, who knows? They might be a sneaky team to make a Super Bowl run. So, well, who knows? But I think the Seahawks team is definitely going to be special this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that team is very capable, I think, of making a Super Bowl run if all the chips kind of fall their way. I don't think when you look at just the talent on paper, you'd be like, that's a Super Bowl contending team. But if Geno continues to play, let's say, like at that level he did last season, or maybe even a tick above it in year 2 under Pete Carroll with some of the weapons that they still got there, Noah Fant, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and obviously JSN when he gets back to being up and healthy. If he can be the receiver that, we all expect him to be coming out of college, that offense is still going to be extremely prolific. You still got Rashad Penny, coming out of the backfield.
Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker.
Not exactly. I was about to say, not Rashad Penny. That's he's over in Philadelphia now. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker, and Chardonnay as well too. So I mean, I like this team a lot too. Defensively, I think that they're going to have to do a much better job when you talk about really just the high-powered offenses that you see in this division in the NFC West too. But I think Seattle's definitely very capable of not only winning this division, but really kind of making a deep postseason run because the NFC in its totality is nowhere near the amount of talent that we see really in the AFC, especially when you look at the quarterback position. So I think you can expect a very similar type of production from Geno Smith going into year 2 under Pete Carroll. But let's talk about another team in the NFC West, brand new head coach over in Arizona, and the Kyler Murray whole situation too. That's kind of looking like it's kind of getting resolved with the Cardinals as well too. What are your expectations now that DeAndre Hopkins has kind of moved on from the Arizona Cardinals? He's obviously with the Tennessee Titans now. A lot of turmoil has been changed with the Arizona Cardinals. Talk to me about this team, what you expect for them going into year 1 with their new head coach.
I mean, I'm not expecting anything at all from this team. I think they need to just ride the wave and tank. Also show some better culture. Jonathan Gannon has to do a job of resetting the culture out there. Also needs to do a good job of, developing the young players they drafted. It's like the BJ Ojulari's, the Michael Wilsons and stuff like that. The receiver they picked up from Stanford. The offensive line and Paris Johnson Jr. Right? Can they get good development out of him? I mean, obviously they're in a mode of, possibly, definitely not tanking, but not willing to pay, low value players and keep them retained. That's why they traded away Isaiah Simmons and also Josh Jones, the tackle that they sent the Texans. So, I just believe this team is definitely in a rebuild mode, right? And the best thing about it is they're going to have the first and second overall pick next year, more than likely. So, if that's the case, or at least they'll have 2 top 5 picks, so they're definitely going to have a lot of bidding wars heading to next offseason.
Remind me off the top of my head where that other pick's coming from.
It's coming from the Texans.
You're right.
So
okay, that's right. From the draft night trade with Will Anderson.
Yep. So the Texans end up being bad next year, which they probably will. They're going to have comfortably speak. I'll be respectful. They're definitely going to have 2 top.
Let's say 2 top 10 picks. Let's just say 2 top 10 picks.
2 top 10 picks. So, they have a very bright future, but right now is just just kind of reminds me of the Jaguars in 2019. 2020,
yeah. Doug Marrone, Gardner Minshew.
Yep. This team very well could go with 3 wins this year. They might go winless. You know what I'm saying? But, I just want to see the development of players. Also, you possibly can see this team ship away one more big asset, maybe Buda Baker, to get some more draft
more than likely
compensation. And but I think they're going to ride out with Hollywood Brown, James Conner, and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is show development, culture change, and secure your first round pick next year in the draft, so you can have a bidding war with other teams out there that are seeking a quarterback, because the quarterback class next year is going to be very, very strong. So yeah, I don't really have anything special.
Caleb Williams might be the guy in Arizona next year for all we know.
See, my take on that real quick is that I don't think, unless Kyler Murray, that's another thing too, they got to keep Kyler Murray happy and healthy during this, rebuild stage, because if he ends up being a bit unsettled or not believing in the culture they're establishing, he'll definitely request a trade, right? And
as he should.
they would happily take someone like Caleb Williams. But in my
Mhm.
opinion, I think they still should try to build around Kyler Murray. He's still relatively very young. He's a
26.
top
Yep.
he's a top 12 quarterback in his league. I think
I
top
think
10
so.
when healthy. I think you just got to see how it goes this year, man. If he ends up liking his coaching staff, man, I don't think they move on from him, which is going to be a beautiful thing in the long run, because they can get a lot more draft compensation in next year and possibly bring in another wide receiver one for him to pair up with Hollywood Brown. They'll draft Marvin Harrison Jr. They'll bring in,
Mhm.
they'll trade. Let's hypothetically speaking, man. Let's say that Brian Burns gets unhappy out there in Carolina. He can't get a contract extension. Or, knock on wood, Josh Allen, he can't get an extension here with us, and
Mhm.
he ends up signing with them over there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have a bright future. The biggest thing is just keeping someone like Kyler Murray happy during this rehab and also healthy. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of start from the beginning from what you said with the Arizona Cardinals. I don't have any expectations for this team too. There's still no timetable for Kyler Murray's return, who obviously missed a significant portion of the end of the season last year after the ACL injury. So I think he's still on the pup list as of right now. So he's not expected to play by week 1. I probably don't expect him to play the first couple weeks of the season, if you ask me, when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals. But overall, there's just not a lot to like with this team, offensively speaking, really outside of Hollywood Brown. You've got an aging tight end in Zach Ertz, even though they still got Trey McBride, Rondale Moore. And then defensively speaking, you've still got solid, pieces out there, obviously outside of Budda Baker, who we all know is one of the best safeties in the game, but Zaven Collins, Jonathan Ledbetter, Marco Wilson, the list goes on. They've got pieces, and obviously they just gave away Isaiah Simmons. You briefly mentioned that he's with the Giants now too. So this is a rehabilitation year. I think for them, this is a year for them to try to, like I said, build a culture, try to keep Kyler Murray happy at 26 years of age, and really just try to get this thing going in the right direction. I don't think that they're going to go out there and really do anything crazy this year. I think that they're easily going to finish at the bottom of the division this year. But if Kyler Murray can continue to still be healthy once he gets back off of the pup list and continues to recover from the ACL injury, I still think he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. I think he's actually the most underrated quarterback in the entire NFL. I feel like Kyler Murray doesn't get his respect. But topic for another day. Let's kind of move off from the Arizona Cardinals now. Let's actually talk about a team that just won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. This team looks completely different. This roster feels like it's flipped a lot. And obviously that injury to Matthew Stafford last season caused the Rams to not be a great team. But let's talk about the LA Rams, man. Talk to me about this team and what do you expect from them in the year 2023?
oh man, well, I was very surprised to see Sean McVay come back and try to rebuild this team. Um, they're in a very weird state because yes, they have arguably two of the best players at their position in football, and Cooper Kupp and
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald, offensively and defensively, but they still have a bottom five roster, right? You know what I'm saying? They're going to be a very I don't think they're going to be a hard watch this year because I respect Sean McVay as a coach. I think he can get this team at least 6 wins this year. They're going to be a thorn in some team side throughout the season, I would say. But this team is talentless, right? And honestly, I've been petitioning the entire offseason. I really believe they should trade away one of those, pillar pieces, like as in Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, or Aaron Donald, which I think Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald would definitely have more trade value. Like they basically got rid of Jalen
100%.
Ramsey to bring in some, draft compensation and also to free up some cap, most importantly, right? So I think they should try to move on from one of those two guys, Cooper or Aaron Donald, to really stock up on draft picks, right? And I think that'd be very smart of them. And I honestly wouldn't mind them being bad this year as well, if they can get in that Caleb Williams or Drake May sweepstakes, because
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Stafford, he did what he could with that team. He won them a
He got him a
championship.
chip. He got him a
Yeah.
chip.
Won him a championship. He's creeping up on like 37 years of age right now. He has shown that he is unhealthy these last few seasons. Well, last year, most importantly. And we don't know how he's going to respond this year. I think if Sean McVay wants to stay with this Rams team, I think he needs to get a franchise quarterback so he can really rebuild and not walk into, because as we all know, Sean McVay has never gotten a franchise quarterback with this team. Jared Goff was already on this team when he got there. So if he can go get a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, a Bo Nix, a Michael Penix in next year's draft class, I think it'll really him staying there long term. Also, you can get rid of someone like Cam Akers, later in the season, like for some
Yeah.
late, like for mid-round picks and stuff like that. So I don't think this team is going to compete for anything special. I think they're going to be a respectable team if they keep everybody intact. But the division is just too tough. Their schedule is okay, but they're going to have to play teams in their division, of course. I want to say they play. Who do they play this year? I think they play the AFC West this year, if I'm not mistaken. So that means like the Chiefs and whatnot. Hold on, let me see real quick. But yeah, I just don't really expect
I
anything
don't
from
see
this
the
team.
AFC West on their schedule.
Who do
I
they?
think
Who
they
do they
got the Cincinnati,
Okay, so they play the
Pittsburgh. I think
AFC
the
North.
AFC North. AFC North
Okay,
they got on their
so
schedule.
they got the
And it looks
AFC
like
North.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, they got the AFC North, and then it looks like they've also got the NFC East. It looks like I see Dallas, the Giants, the Commanders. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
see
got a
them all
little.
on their
Yeah,
schedule as well too.
yeah. So well, it looks like or maybe it might be the it is the East. So I
It is the
mean,
East,
they have a very tough schedule. I'm looking at. They got, like
right?
I said, the Bengals, Eagles, Cowboys, Packers this year. Commanders, Saints. I mean, it's going to be a very
It's gonna be a gauntlet for them. It really
it's
is
a
gonna be a
big gauntlet.
gauntlet.
So, like I said, 6 wins is respectable. You know what I'm saying? And then if they end up being worse than that, or if they get in a position where they can trade up, you know what I'm saying, that'll be big for them as well. But I really hope they move on from Cooper or Aaron Donald. I think that really solidified them in a rebuild mode.
Yeah,
But like I said, I have no expectations for this team this year. Just waiting to see if they move on from a big fish and really embrace this rebuild mode they're about to enter.
yeah. I mean, when you look back at the last couple of seasons, Matthew Stafford did his job. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald did their job. They got them their championship. Now they're really post Super Bowl era where they gave up everything. They went all in as they should, and they got their ring ultimately, and they lost a lot of draft capital. They're going to have to free up a lot of cap space now, and they know that their team's not going to be bad. They gave up the future for the right now, and I think that was the best decision for them at the time when they saw that Jared Goff ultimately couldn't be their quarterback, that Sean McVay said, hey, I can go win a Super Bowl with this guy. Let's go get Matthew Stafford. And Stafford, obviously, coming off of that injury, he's looking to have a bounce back season as well, too. But like I said, this Rams team has little to no expectations going into this year. You're in a really tough division. You've got a tough schedule ahead of you. And like I said, I don't think that there's just a lot of talent really on this team outside of obviously Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. It would be best for them to honestly move off of both of these guys. If you ask me at some point in the season before the deadline, you might as well stock up on draft capital that you do not have. And you would get some good compensation in return, especially for a Cooper Kupp, who is a top 5 wide receiver in the game of football. People would still like to go out there and get an Aaron Donald, even if it's a 1-year rental. I'm sure a team that's willing to make a Super Bowl push, maybe like Jacksonville, would be willing to give up something in order to acquire an Aaron Donald. He can bring that kind of veteran presence and leadership and that Super Bowl mindset really into a front seven. I think any team would love to have that, especially a Super Bowl contending team. So this Rams team, I don't see them even getting maybe 5-6 wins this season if they're lucky. I think they're going to be respectable enough. They're going to have some, crazy win where they're going to go out there and they're going to surprise the world because you've still got Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp out there offensively speaking, but nothing too crazy to rave about when you talk about the Los Angeles Rams, if you ask me. But let's kind of get into the last team in the division, a team that we all expect going into the season to be significantly good. And this team just traded away the former number 3 overall pick in Trey Lance to the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers. They've still not named a starter, if I'm not mistaken, at the quarterback position for week 1. So it's really looking like it's going to be between Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. Darien, talk to me about the San Francisco 49ers team. What do you expect from them going into this season?
Well, to speak on what you just said just now, they named Brock Purdy the starting quarterback like weeks ago. Like when it was I think he hadn't even taken a snap yet, and Kyle Shanahan was like, he's our QB1. There's no doubt about
Literally,
it.
how did that go over my head? I did not see that anywhere.
Yep. He basically debunked everything that could have been going in the favor of Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, or most importantly Trey Lance. He said no, without a question. It would take. He said it would take. It would take Brock Purdy to get injured in practice or something like that for him to not be QB1. So that's why the trade talk for Trey Lance intensified. But
My apologies then.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, it's pretty laughable because I felt like transition to this segment. I've been talking about this quarterback controversy for a little bit of time now. I think the Niners, and even Kyle Shanahan admitted it, I don't know if it was just coach speech, but he failed Trey Lance terribly. They gave him 6 games, 4 starts to show what he could do. I think that is very unfair. I understand that Brock Purdy had came in last year after Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance got injured and stepped in and just basically did his role, be a quarterback game manager and just get them and continue to win games. And we all know this team does not run a quarterback centric offense. So to just hand over a team to a player that, in my opinion, might be slightly better than Jimmy Garoppolo is a bit puzzling, because you drafted and put so much compensation into Trey Lance to be your franchise quarterback. I'd at least feel as if he should get 4 more games this season, right? I mean, quarterbacks like Zach Wilson, even though it's a different situation, got 22 starts as a quarterback, I think. Something around 22, 23. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it's a very unfair for Trey Lance. Hopefully we'll transition to it next, that he's going to, in a better environment. Is a very interesting place he just went. But I mean, it's going to go down as one of the worst picks in Niners history, in my opinion. It is a bust pick, especially for the value they gave up. However, fortunate enough, for some odd reason, they might not feel any effects from this, because Brock Purdy is solid. Yep. Is he a world beater? No. Can he win them a championship? Maybe. Can he get them to the conference championship again? Yes, in my opinion. They have an amazing supporting cast. This is why I don't see why they couldn't just give Trey Lance an opportunity to showcase could he do a bit more given his athleticism and his arm talent. But I will say they have CMC, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuels, a very good offensive line, right, led by Trent Williams. You have a very good defense.
Football.
Oh, yeah, George Kittle, I forgot to even mention him. You have a great defense led by Nick Bosa. Hopefully they get this contract situation figured out. But you have your Fred Warner. You have your not Jimmy Ward anymore. You have Javarius Ward, my bad. You have a very good elite defense, right? You know what I'm saying? So they're going to be right in the thick of things, and they're going to make a playoff push, Super Bowl run, you would hope, this year. But I will say, if Brock Purdy ends up flopping this year and he gives you 15-5, like a Daniel Jones type season, and they get bounced in the second round of the playoffs, what are you going to say? Because it's the same thing. I mean, yeah, this team's Kyle Shanahan has a lot of weapons around him. He has a good DC that can get this defense running and going. But if they get knocked out the second round and Brock Purdy gives you 15-5 this year with a little over 3,000 yards, you're going to have another quarterback controversy, in my opinion, right? So, I mean, honestly, it feels as if, given where he was drafted, it seems like Brock Purdy has to be their Tom Brady, in my opinion, because if he ends up not winning a championship in the next 2 years, it was a failure. It was a failure. I mean, yes, they didn't expect Brock Purdy to become this guy, but now he's become this guy. He is their franchise quarterback now. So the expectations and the responsibilities and the, everything that involves his play is definitely under a microscope now. So I think this team is definitely on a hot seat, in my opinion. They have to get to the championship this year at least, or back to the conference championship. Anything less is a failure, in my opinion. So, yeah, the eyes will be on the Niners this season. I think they will, but, it's the NFL. You never know what could happen, man. So we'll see.
Yeah, so let me ask you 2 questions about that, because I don't disagree with just about anything you said. I think that this team is on the hot seat. I think Kyle Shanahan's got a lot to prove this season, even though we know he's a phenomenal coach.
Phenomenal head coach.
Phenomenal. Like, I mean, nothing needs to be said really about Kyle Shanahan and what he's done these last couple of seasons too. But first question is, let me kind of go back to last year's NFC Championship game. They obviously lost to the Philadelphia Eagles 7-31. But we all know a big key factor was obviously Brock Purdy got hurt in that game. Let's just hypothetical with me real quick. Hypothetically speaking, if Brock Purdy is healthy in that game, does not sustain that injury and limits this 49ers offense, do they put up a better dogfight, or do they possibly even have a chance at winning that game? Or no matter what, Philadelphia was going to run them out of the building?
I don't think Philly would ran them out of the building, but I think they still would have lost, because we saw Brock Purdy against the Dallas Cowboys defense, and even though the Cowboys are an extreme talented defense, he struggled. He did good against the Seahawks defense. They had one of the worst defenses in the league last year, probably like average at best, I would think.
Average.
Yeah, but the Dallas Cowboys had a top 5 defense, and they struggled. The Philadelphia Eagles had the number 1 defense. So I don't think they've they wouldn't have got blown out 31-7, but it still would have lost, right? Because at the end of the day, they would have needed Brock Purdy to deliver for them. And I don't know if the rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, 7th round, last pick in the NFL draft would have been able to do enough to win that game. No knock on him.
Especially with
But
that Eagles defense.
yeah, there's no knock on him, but like even and I'm being honest now, even though he didn't get sacked and even though he didn't put up crazy numbers, to a degree, Patrick Mahomes looked a bit pedestrian against that defense. If you look at the stats, he did a good job. He made plays when needed to be made, but it's not like Patrick Mahomes ripped that defense up. So just imagine what Brock Purdy would have had to do against that defense, given the fact that they were on the road in a tough environment. You know, I think it wouldn't have been 31-7, but it probably would have been like 28-14.
21, maybe.
Nah, I don't think 21. Nah, I think
Not even a 1-possession
14.
game.
Nah. It would have been a 2-score game still, but it would have been a more tougher. Like the Eagles would have pulled away late, given the fact that the defense would have been able to, you know, they would have been able to play more ball control, given the fact that Kyle Shanahan emphasizes on the run game. So, you know, but yeah, I think they would have lost regardless, but it would have been a better bout, I would say.
Okay, now let me give you one more question real quick on the San Francisco 49ers, since we're still talking about a quarterback controversy, potentially with Brock Purdy here, and obviously Trey Lance now gone. Hypothetically speaking, if Brock Purdy is to play relatively pedestrian, maybe he's just being a game manager, but really not exceeding expectations, could we potentially see Sam Darnold this season? And if so, whether that is due to injury or not, do you think Sam Darnold could potentially still be a plus over Brock Purdy, considering what we've seen from him in Carolina when healthy?
No, because Kyle Shanahan is infatuated with Brock Purdy. Like, this is his quarterback, right? He fits everything he needs to do. So if he goes out there and is pedestrian, but they're still winning games by 10 plus points, or they're still winning close games, you know, Brock Purdy's job is safe. Unless he is costing them games, throwing, you know, 3 interceptions and they're, you know, losing because of him, he'll get benched. But if he keeps his numbers like very pedestrian, but they're still winning, he's going to stay in the starting role, man, so because he's doing enough for them to win.
Okay, I'll give you that, even if he's just being a glorified game manager, right? Which is really what Brock Purdy is. Like, let's just call it what it is, unless we see something different in his second season. But if Brock Purdy does get injured this season, and I'm not praying on that, I'm just knocking on wood, hypothetically speaking, if Sam Darnold has to be the quarterback for an extended period of time, or let's just say the rest of the season, you don't think he's capable of getting that Niners team to the Super Bowl?
I mean, well, from what we've seen from Sam Darnold to Carolina, he was solid. Okay, he showed that he can be a serviceable backup quarterback.
Give him a real head coach. Give him a real talented football team around him. He's reunited with Christian McCaffrey.
I mean, why not? I mean, this team doesn't need a quarterback of high quality or power to succeed. You have to just be a robot and not improvise and follow to a T what Kyle Shanahan wants. I mean, I literally, you have to be a robot. I remember a picture that surfaced the internet of the wristband of Jimmy Garoppolo's play calling. It said, "Be a robot." Like, literally, be a robot. You know what I'm saying? So if you follow verbatim into the T of what Kyle Shanahan is asking for you, you'll be fine. So as long as he doesn't go out there and try to chuck the ball, like try to seam route, force feed the ball down to Deebo Samuel. As long as he's following the play calling and the procedures of the offense, they can really throw anybody out there. I just don't know why they didn't give Trey Lance that opportunity, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. And to kind of just wrap up the whole 49ers talk, I just want to say, for the record, Sam Darnold gives the San Francisco 49ers a better chance this season, in the regular season and in the postseason, to be successful over Brock Purdy. I would think that Sam Darnold healthy gives this 49ers team a much better chance to make a deep postseason run. I think that they could actually have Super Bowl aspirations with a healthy Sam Darnold, considering what I saw from him in Carolina. Just like any other quarterback, he's going to have his mess ups. He's going to struggle at times, but in a Kyle Shanahan offense with the weapons that he's got around him, I like Sam Darnold a whole lot more than I like Brock Purdy. And I don't know, only time's going to tell. Who knows if Sam Darnold leaving it's an opportunity this season. But let's kind of wrap up talking about the NFC West in general. Darien, I want you to actually go ahead and give me 1 through 4 where you think these teams are going to finish in the division.
Yeah, we'll go rapid fire with it. I did all that talking just to say the 49ers will be the first team in first place in the NFC West. They'll finish 12-5. I think they have the roster, the defense. Brock Purdy is going to do enough, in my opinion. They'll finish 12-5. Seattle Seahawks, I have them coming in second. They'll finish 10-7. I do believe Geno Smith will kind of even kill and balance out this year, man. It will be a balancing effect. I don't think he puts up MVP numbers again this year, but I still think they have enough talent to win 10 games. For my third place team, I have the Rams. Respectfully, I have them winning 6 games this year. I had them winning 3, 4 before, but I got to get some respect. They're going to beat the Cardinals twice. They're going to find ways to beat maybe the Giants this year. I don't know. They're going to figure out some ways to get
They might
4
even be
more
at a
wins.
Seattle or a San Francisco just for a game.
Well, they never could beat San Fran, even where they were good. Kyle Shanahan owns that
True,
team,
yeah.
but they'll find a way to to get 4 more wins on their schedule. Then for the Cardinals, they could go winless. They definitely could go 0-17, the first team to ever do it in NFL history. But it's the NFL. It's week by week. Not every team in this schedule they have on is going to get up to the Cardinals. They could finish 3-14 this year. They can get 3 wins. 3, maybe. I'm being generous, very generous.
That's fair. Let me go rapid fire. NFC West, the number 1 team I got in this division will be the San Francisco 49ers. Very similar to what you said, 12-5. We have almost an exact record prediction for all of these teams. Number 2 in the NFC West, give me the Seattle Seahawks. I expect a very good season from Geno Smith, maybe even a tick above what he performed last season, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Number 3, I've got the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to be a 6-win team as well. Don't have much expectations for this team because I don't really like this offense outside of Cam Akers and Cooper Kupp, and obviously Matthew Stafford coming back off injury. And with the Arizona Cardinals, yes, I don't think that they're going to be good either, but I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give them 4 wins this season, not 3. I'm going to give them 4. It's still the NFL. It's any given Sunday. Kyler Murray coming back off the PUP list. I'm sure he can do enough to, put the team on his back for a week or 2 and really get a surprise win.
A quick question. If Kyler Murray is healthy to play, do you even put him back out there?
It depends on when he comes back. Kyler Murray is not off the physically unable to perform list as of right now, but there's still an opportunity he could, in quote, play by week 1. That's not going to happen. So if you're 0-3, you're 0-4, you throw Kyler Murray out there. Season's still not washed. You're still trying to set an example out there.
Yeah.
The only reason you don't put him back out there if it's week 3 or week 4, and even if your team's winless, maybe y'all pull out a win somewhere, is if there's turmoil going on that nobody knows about, and you're just saying, F it. We're tanking this year, and Kyler Murray, we're going to trade you before the deadline and get some serious compensation, because there's going to be a team out there that would be more than willing to go out there and give the haul for a Kyler Murray at 26 years of age, and I absolutely would too. So that's where I got these teams as well too. But kind of getting into the last topic with the NFC West, let's go ahead and do a fun who's going to have a better season this upcoming year. Darien, give me a player from the NFC West, and let's go rapid fire. Who's going to have a better season?
All right, we got Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver from the 49ers. So who's going to have a better season, Brandon Aiyuk or DK Metcalf?
Give me Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay.
I like Brandon Aiyuk to have a better season.
Okay. Brandon Aiyuk or Tyler Lockett?
Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay. Brandon Aiyuk or his teammate Deebo Samuel?
I'm going to say with the versatility, I'm going to say Deebo Samuel's still going to get a lot of carries coming out of the backfield as well too, and in a lot of misdirection. So I'll say the overall versatility, I'll give it to Deebo, but just in the receiving department, Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay. Brandon Aiyuk or Hollywood Brown?
Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay. Brandon Aiyuk or Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp. Not even a question. Cooper Kupp.
Oh, okay. So my last question about Brandon Aiyuk, give me a stat prediction, and will he be a Pro Bowler or a All-Pro team member this season?
He's not going to be All-Pro, but he will be a Pro Bowler, even though the NFC is loaded with wide receivers, top-tier talent. You look all across the NFC. But a stat prediction for a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, bro, I think this guy could easily have 90 receptions this year, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, somewhere around there. Even in a not necessarily pass-heavy offense with Kyle Shanahan, I like Brandon Aiyuk as wide receiver number 1 overall, and I think he's going to have a phenomenal season this upcoming year.
Okay. That sounds good. I'm not mad at that. I think Brandon Aiyuk's definitely going to be special. He's actually on my breakout player of the year list as well. I think he can definitely enter that top 15 wide receiver conversation on a consensus basis. So yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think he'll be in the conversation for All-Pro, but like I said, it's just hard when you look at the conference as a whole and you really look at how many great talented wide receivers there are in the NFC. But there's a lot in the NFC East, a lot of top-tier talented wide receivers there. And that's the next division that we're going to kind of get into as well. A lot of things have been going on. We got some teams that should be contending for a Super Bowl, some teams that should be making playoff pushes. So let's go ahead and talk about the first team, a team that just acquired, like we just got done talking about, the San Francisco 49ers, trading away Trey Lance to now the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for a 4th-round pick. The season's less than 2 weeks away, man. Dak Prescott will be the quarterback, but what is this Dallas Cowboys team going to do this season, and what should their expectations be coming from you, Darien?
Let me flip this on you. I'm going to ask you instead, all right? So I don't know if you've seen the Dak Prescott interview he had a night ago. He was talking about, like, what did he think about the trade? And he was like, nothing. Yeah, I didn't know. Nothing surprises me in the league, but it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? I'm just taking it day by day, you know, and basically asked him, do you feel like you have a long time here, something like that? He was like, I don't know. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? I want to do the best of my ability to, you know, get this team where it need to be. And people were commenting saying that, yeah, he's more than likely done within the next 2 years. So let me ask you, is the pressure on Dak Prescott, in your opinion, heading into this season, given the fact that he's due for a contract extension, and he could be possibly free agency next year, not after next year?
I think the pressure should be on Mike McCarthy, not on Dak Prescott. First of all, I believe with any football team, I don't care how talented and great your quarterback is, whether he's pedestrian or whether he's a Patrick Mahomes level caliber player, it starts and ends with the head coach. Coaches affect so much, from management to the rest of the coaching staff, down to the athletes and the actual game plan and game management. And we've seen Mike McCarthy not be a great game manager when it comes to big time moments. And I'm not excusing him completely, because Dak Prescott does have his fault. He obviously led the NFL last season in interceptions as quarterbacks. Definitely not all his fault, but he still missed 5-6 games last season. And Cooper Rush does a solid job when he comes in. So the pressure should not be on Dak Prescott, because he's 7-8 years into his career. We know the kind of quarterback that Dak Prescott is. He's a top 12 to 15 quarterback. He's an above average guy. He can be very good. He's not a great or an elite quarterback. He's just a very good quarterback. That's all he is. He's got great weapons around him. He's always had a great offensive line. And when Dak Prescott was at his absolute best was when Ezekiel Elliott was a top 2, top 3 running back in the game of football. They could pound the football. They had one of the best offensive lines in football, and their defense was doing a good job. And Dak Prescott was essentially a glorified game manager when he got his 2 postseason wins. Dak Prescott's a very good quarterback, not a great quarterback. The pressure should not be on him. It should be on Mike McCarthy, who has won a Super Bowl in the past, even though that was 13 years ago over the Pittsburgh Steelers, a long time ago. Mike McCarthy's a proven head coach. He's a very good head coach, but he has not gotten this team over the hump. Dan Quinn will be the next head coach for the Dallas Cowboys if Mike McCarthy does not show up this season. There should be little to no pressure on Dak Prescott, because I feel as if everybody knows the kind of quarterback that he is. Just a good quarterback.
Okay, so I got a counter to that. I think the pressure is definitely on him, and I think Jerry Jones made an emphasis of that by trading for someone like Trey Lance, who is 23 years old, and we understand that he could possibly be the next franchise quarterback up for the Dallas Cowboys. You don't trade a 4th overall pick for a quarterback you don't believe in at a young age. My bad. I said 4th overall pick. Forgive me. 4th round pick for a quarterback you don't believe in. He's going to see some playing time. He might even get the field action this year, want some read option packages or some run plays and stuff like that, or some QB sneaks and QB draws. There's a vision behind what Jerry Jones is doing, and he sent a message to Dak Prescott and said, "Hey, it's time." It is a bit unfortunate, because why are you trading for a quarterback that young when you have a quarterback on your own that is 30 years old, entering the prime of his career? You know what I'm saying? He is a top 15, in my opinion, quarterback. I don't think he's top 10 like people believe, but I think after this year, if he can put together another a great season, he can be a top 10 consistent quarterback. I kind of throw him in that Kirk Cousins realm. I think him and Kirk Cousins are damn near the same quarterback, in my opinion. I just know one has a better record than the other. But, you know, the pressure is definitely on Dak, man. He has no excuses this year, in my opinion. You have arguably the best Cowboys team we've seen talent-wise on paper, probably since their last championship run. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. They have the receivers.
They are loaded, but I'm that might be a stretch. That might be a stretch.
Bro, you have CeeDee Lamb.
That might be a
stretch. Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup. You have a very good offensive line led by Tyron Smith. You know, the rookie last year, I forgot his name. Is like Tariq Smith, I think, something like that. I forgot his name.
Tyler Smith? Tyler Smith, the rookie from Tulsa?
Yes, he was a good tackle
Yes.
last year. You have Zach Martin still. You have Tony Pollard coming off his injury. He sustained in last year's playoffs. You have a young guy coming up in Deuce Vaughn defensively, Michael Parsons, Dexter
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence. You have Leighton Vander Esch still. You have the Mozzie Smith guy coming in this year. He's going to be a very good plug-in defensive tackle. You have Stephon Gilmore, you traded for Trayvon Diggs. You have a very good secondary led by Malik Hooker and Javon Curse. You still have Deron Bland, who had a very successful season this year. Dan Quinn, who's arguably the
I was about
best
to say
DC
Dan
in
Quinn.
football. You have no excuse this year to not make a deep playoff run. You don't have Kellen Moore anymore ruining the playbook. From what they said, the Dallas Cowboys have an immense amount of pressure on them, and it is down to Dak Prescott. And, of course, Mike McCarthy as well, because I think Mike McCarthy is one of the most overrated head coaches in the league. But you want to call plays this year?
Fair.
By all means, do your thing, man. You have to put together a very solid offense. I know the defense is going to be fine, but the pressure is definitely on Dak, because if he ends up being bad this year, I'm trying to tell you, the conversations for Dak Prescott to be traded, the Dallas Cowboys frenzy of a fan base, they're going to be asking for this man's job. And of course, comparisons to last year, another reason why they traded for Trey Lance is because Dak Prescott has shown the last 2 seasons he's been unable to stay healthy. He had an elbow injury he dealt with last year on his throwing arm. The year before that, he broke his ankle. Now this year, if he goes down again and he misses significant time and Trey Lance comes in and he does the same thing as Cooper Rush did last year, but Trey Lance's ability, with his rushing ability, with his arm talent, Dak Prescott might have his own Tony Romo moment, because you remember Tony Romo went through the same thing. He got hurt in the preseason, I think, or week 1 against
preseason.
Yeah, against it might have been the Eagles. I'm not sure who they faced. They faced some team.
I forget.
And he got injured, messed himself up.
And everyone said, "Who is this Dak Prescott guy?"
Dak Prescott came in 4th round pick with Ezekiel Elliott, the 2 rookies, leading the way, and they kept their jobs. So
yeah,
it's going to be unfortunate. I hope it doesn't happen this way, but the NFL, it's a repetitive league, man. Who knows? Dak Prescott might have his very own Tony Romo moment this season. We'll see though, but it's a lot of pressure on him for sure.
Let me kind of counter back with that too, though, because you did all that talking just to prove my point yet again. The pressure's not on Dak, bro. The pressure is clearly still on Mike McCarthy. Bro, the reason why Mike McCarthy was brought in is because he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. It starts with the coach. And you said it. And you proved my point that I didn't bring up, because I was waiting to see if you were going to bring it. Kellen Moore's no longer there. Who's calling the plays?
Mike McCarthy.
So the pressure's on him. You're the head coach. You're the play caller. You blamed Kellen Moore for your shortcomings. Dak Prescott did not play good in the playoffs versus the San Francisco 49ers. We know this. We know Dak Prescott is not a great playoff performer. He's not even a great regular season performer. He's a above average guy. He's a top 12, top 15 quarterback. That's what he is. Everybody knows this. We know the defense is stacked. We know the offense has an immense amount of talent, especially now that Zach Martin's retained on that new contract. This team is loaded. It's on the play caller and it's on the head coach in order to put Dak Prescott in the best position to succeed and not let him F up. He's missed 17 games the last 3 seasons due to injury. We know Dak Prescott, when he's going to be healthy, he's going to be solid. That's all he needs to be. He just needs to be solid. Just don't turn the ball over. Tony Pollard coming out of the backfield, Vaughn coming out of the backfield, that's fine. The pressure's on Mike McCarthy, not on Dak Prescott. I'm not completely saying Dak has no pressure. I'm saying the majority of the pressure should be on the head coach. I think Mike McCarthy should have been fired after that 49ers blunder in the postseason. And, Dak Prescott obviously was unaware of the time, not getting down, sliding in time. That game was on Mike McCarthy.
The year before last?
Excuse me, yeah. Not this past season when they were at San Francisco, but the previous year.
But okay, so
when they lost San Francisco both. The pressure's on Mike McCarthy. 100% it should be on him.
Okay, so if the pressure, if it's an insane amount of pressure on Mike McCarthy, why did they trade for Trey Lance? What's the reason for bringing Trey Lance? Why?
Yeah, you got to light a fire under up Dak's ass, as you should, because we all know Dak Prescott's not the long-term answer. He's not. He's the Jimmy Garoppolo situation right now, where we have a Super Bowl contending roster. This is the 49ers thinking a couple seasons ago, prior to the Trey Lance trade, before they traded up on draft night. Jimmy Garoppolo's proven he's a good guy. Don't F up. We're going to have guys in place. We're going to have a defense. We're going to have an offensive system that's going to put you in the best position to succeed. We've got the play caller as our head coach, and we know what kind of talent we have around you. Run through the system. Don't F it up, and let's see. And when we feel as if the time is ready for the young guy, a.k.a. Trey Lance in San Francisco, maybe now In Dallas, bro, this is Dak's last year as the quarterback. I wholeheartedly believe that. I don't care if Dak plays solid this year, and he will when he's healthy. He's going to play solid. His time is up, bro. He's not the guy that's going to get you over the hump. So it's Trey Lance's time in Dallas after the season.
This is my last say on it. I don't think there's an insane amount of pressure on Mike McCarthy right now because he's kind of been given the opportunity to call an offense this year, right? And also, Jerry Jones has said, hey, we're giving you another option at the quarterback level if your main guy doesn't succeed. Jerry Jones has kind of expressed in years past, it seems like without saying words, that he doesn't really have favor in Dak Prescott. He was very reluctant to pay him. You know what I'm saying? And bringing in a quarterback, like I said, you're bringing in a 23-year-old quarterback when your quarterback is in the prime of his career. We might not think that Prescott is all that in the bag of chips, but the NFL landscape does. You know, a lot of his peers, a lot of the media people out there think that Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback. So if he's a top 10 quarterback, why are you bringing in a young quarterback to possibly take his job this season? Not saying it's going to happen, but there's a reason why they traded a 4th-round pick for a young quarterback, bro. Like, it's not like they sent a 7th. It's not like they sent some value. So in my opinion, I think they're letting Mike McCarthy know, like, hey, your job, I don't think his job's on the line either because Jerry Jones, that's his yes man. He wanted to hire a coach that's going to agree to everything he says. I just think that Dak Prescott has an immense amount of pressure, bro. Like that isn't like he is under fire this year, bro. Like you don't bring in competition or someone to look over your shoulder when you're in the prime of your career. For example, hold on before you continue, before you say anything. This is why I believe that because on the flip side, everybody was saying, "Oh, Trey Lance in Minnesota, reunion back home. Kirk Cousins is almost his time there is almost over. He's on a contract year. That's fine, but guess what? Minnesota did not do anything to show us this offseason whatsoever that they were moving on from Kirk Cousins. So he might get a contract extension after this year. They believe in Kirk Cousins. He's in the prime of his career. No team, in my opinion, is going to trade for a quarterback that is that young when their quarterback is entering the prime of their career, bro. There's no chance in hell that should happen. You know why it's happening? Because Dak Prescott has an immense amount of pressure on him. And if he fails this year, or let's say they get to the playoffs and he ends up having a pedestrian season, or he ends up costing them a playoff game again, they're going to get rid of his asses all season. I promise you that, bro. And Trey Lance is going to step up and be their new quarterback going forward. I promise you it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
So, Darren, can you tell me off the top of your head? I just wanted to double check real quick. I looked. When was the last time the Dallas Cowboys have been to an NFC championship game?
It's been probably since like 95.
96 to be
96.
Correct. So, yeah, 96. Yeah, same difference.
Mm-hmm.
So, in our lifetime, we have not seen the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC championship game, which is kind of insane when you think about it.
Really is.
Jerry Jones has made it very, very, very clear over these last couple of seasons. I want to win. I'm going to go all in on winning. You think he's just going to sit there and be like, all right, Mike McCarthy, shortcoming. Who's going to be the scapegoat? Who's going to be the scapegoat when
Prescott.
This team fails? They're not getting to the conference championship game, okay? We've seen this story every single year. I don't care how talented this roster is. I don't care how loaded this roster is. They had one of the most high prolific offenses in the game of football, and they told their offensive coordinator to leave. Get out.
He was a scapegoat. He definitely was a scapegoat.
Yes, and he's one of the best offensive minds in football. And look at he's going to be able to do some great things with Justin Herbert on that team.
I agree.
We all know this.
I agree.
So if Mike McCarthy is going to take an onus of this offense and says, you know what, he's going to be the scapegoat. Kellen Moore was the issue. I want to run the football. He wanted to pass the football. But we had one of the number one scoring offenses in football. We had one of the most prolific offenses in football. I'm going to take responsibility to this team as the head coach and as the play caller. It is my job to make sure Dak Prescott does not F this team over. Why would Dak Prescott be under more pressure than Mike McCarthy? I hear what you're saying, and I understand that they're trying to light a fire under his ass with Trey Lance now being there and giving up a conditional 4th-round pick. But this is on Mike McCarthy. You were brought in to win a Super Bowl. Your team has Super Bowl aspirations. You have a Super Bowl roster. Put Doug Peterson on that Cowboys team right now, and the kind of quarterback guru he is. You don't think that team's getting to the conference championship game? I think that they're a lock for the conference championship game with that roster.
I think so.
With the right coach.
I agree. But the reason why I think there's pressure on both of them for sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of Mike McCarthy. No way I'm defending him. But I'm just saying, in Dak Prescott's case, the reason why the pressure's on him because he's getting paid top dollar. You're getting paid like a top 5 quarterback in his league. It's time to pick it up. It's time. I mean, yes, Mike McCarthy is calling the plays this year. There's an immense amount of pressure on him. But Mike McCarthy, in my opinion, let's say this offense ends up being top 5, top 10 this year, and this defense ends up being top 5 again, and they finish number 1 in the division, right, or number 2, and they get a good record overall, right? They finish like 12, 11 wins, right, and they're
one
winning
playoff
games,
win,
and they get one playoff win. But if they go into that game and Dak Prescott is playing terribly, they're not going to point the finger at Mike McCarthy. I'm telling you. I think Mike McCarthy would have to for Mike McCarthy to get fired or to be the pressure to be amped upon him this year, they'll have to start off the season like 0-3. You know what I'm saying? Like I think Mike McCarthy's going to do enough in the regular season to show that he's capable of leading his team. But it comes down to Dak Prescott and his quarterback abilities. If he ends up being mediocre this year, or they end up falling because of him, because of his incompetency and his, erratic quarterback play at times, they're going to move on from him this offseason because he has a contract due in next year, in 2 years from now. Like if they're going to try to like get ahead of it before they can, because they have Trey Lance sitting on the bench, so we'll see. And plus, I think another reason why this is my last one as well. And we got to move on. We spent too much time talking about the sorry ass Cowboys, but my last take on this as well. I think another reason why they bring in Trey Lance is because Mike McCarthy has shown in the past that he can do solid things with young quarterbacks. Right? He got the best out of Aaron Rodgers. Right? That was the reason why he became a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl head coach. He worked with who else he worked with, bro? I think he worked with it was another young quarterback he worked with too, bro. I gotta find.
I'm drawing a blank.
Let me see. Hold on.
About Mike McCarthy and young quarterbacks.
But he also took over Dak Prescott, who was relatively young as well. He was like 28 when he first got there. Let me see. Hold on. Mike McCarthy. Definitely mainly Rodgers, and maybe Drew Brees, because he was a coordinator there in the 2004 season, and I'm not sure if Drew Brees was there yet. Maybe not. But anyways, he has the criteria of saying, hey, I developed Aaron Rodgers while he sat on my bench. So that's the biggest thing he has, and he did do a good job of developing Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. So like I said, that's my take on. I think the pressure's on both, but it's definitely more intensified on Dak Prescott's end, in my opinion.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say to wrap up the whole Cowboys talk, like you said, we spent way too much time talking about these sorry ass Cowboys in our whole lifetime, man. Ain't never been to a championship game, man. That's crazy. No, Dak Prescott's not the answer. Hasn't been the answer the last couple of years. We're 7 years into this guy's career, and we're still asking him to step it up. 7 years is a long amount of time. We know what you are at this point in your career. You're just an average quarterback. After this season, I don't care what the Dallas Cowboys do, because first of all, they're not getting to a championship game. Trey Lance is going to take over this franchise after this season, right? If Dak Prescott stays upright and healthy this year, of course. And this is going to be Trey Lance's team moving forward after this season. That's just my take on it. We're going to be done talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Let's kind of rapid, quick fire through the rest of the NFC East, because it's still a very competitive division. Yeah, Let's talk about another intriguing team with the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell's now going to be the quarterback. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy is now the new offensive coordinator with this team. What should the expectations be for a team that could be sneaky good this year in the Washington Commanders, Darien?
They very well could be sneaky good, man. I like that take. Eric Bieniemy steps in. I think this offense is going to be fun to watch. You have a very exciting receiving core with Terry McLaurin leading the way, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. I think the run game is going to be really good with Brian Robinson. You also have a versatile running back that Eric Bieniemy loves to use in his offenses, and Antonio Gibson. The offensive line will be better, led by Andrew Wilder, he brought over from the Kansas City Chiefs. Defensively, they're going to be healthier, right? And their secondary is a bit unproven, but you still have Montez, Chase Young this year, right? Who could possibly be traded if ends up, shaking some things out over there. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. I mean, they have a very good front seven. And I think this Commanders team is definitely going to play spoiler a lot this year. I think they might be a step behind, but it also wouldn't be surprising as well if they get the ball rolling this year, man. And Ron Rivera is one of those coaches that, just finds a way to make it look okay. You know what I'm saying? So I do say this, though. If they end up being bad this year, I think Ron Rivera will be fired. But if not, I think he ends up keeping his job, of course. But, the pressure is definitely on Ron Rivera this year. He brought in Eric Bieniemy for a reason. And, I'm hoping it works out, because Eric Bieniemy deserves a chance of being a head coach in this league. And he very well could be the future coach for this Commander squad. But if not, I think he finds another home somewhere else. But I think this is the year where he puts it on notice that, hey, I'm a legit OC. It might have been Andy Reid calling the plays out there, but I had a huge emphasis on the things we did. And I'm going to show you how I developed this young quarterback, fourth round selection as well. I think maybe fifth, and Sam Howell. So.
Yeah, I think that there's not necessarily a lot of pressure, I would say, on this Commanders team to really, make a playoff push, but I think that this team is going to be very sneaky good, and I'll kind of save that take towards the end of it when we get into it in a few minutes. But this team is playing with house money. They really are. Ron Rivera's playing with house money this year. I feel like, obviously, I don't think that they're going to be a bad team, but I think that they're going to be very respectable, a very good team in general. Eric Bieniemy, same thing, kind of playing with house money. Even though this is his first year away from Patrick Mahomes, he does deserve the opportunity to really become a head coach and to kind of prove his talent. Now with the young quarterback, we've seen Eric Bieniemy do a great job with young quarterbacks. We've seen obviously Andy Reid Ron Rivera do a phenomenal job with young quarterbacks, and most notably Cam Newton back in his days in Philadelphia. So this Washington Commanders team is going to be very potent, especially offensively speaking. You talk about a very loaded wide receiver core, like you said, Scary Terry, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. I like Logan Thomas a lot too, and obviously their backfield is going to be very good. Defensively, the big thing is they're going to be healthy this year, and obviously Chase Young is going to be a huge catalyst for that front seven, Darren Payne as well too. I like this team a lot, and I think in the NFC East they're going to be competing for a playoff spot this year with the Washington Commanders. I like them a lot. Let's talk about another team in the NFC East that actually did make the playoffs last season in their first year under new head coach Brian Daboll. The New York Giants' former coach of the year last year should have been Doug Peterson, but Brian Daboll won. No disrespect to him. He's still a phenomenal guy. We know he did great things with Josh Allen in his time in Buffalo, did some great things, and made Daniel Jones a very good quarterback in his first year together. Talk to me about this New York Giants team and what are they going to do this upcoming season, Darien?
Well, they exceeded expectations last year for sure.
A
Kind
whole
of like
lot.
Doug Peterson with the Jaguars. I mean, probably even more. That's why he won. That's why he won Coach of the Year. Exceeded expectations. They were kind of neck and neck with this Commanders team for basically the whole entire season until they pulled away at the very end. They got off to a very hot start last year as well. I think they started out just in like 4-0, and they're winning games, off the strength of their defense of Wink Martindale leading that unit. They get stronger with that unit as well. They bring in Isaiah Simmons, a jack of, like not really a jack of all trades guy, but a guy that's very versatile, and he's showcased that he can play in different positions. Hopefully, they doesn't mold a position for him that he can just really blossom and really just learn instead of just plug him in anywhere. But you have Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence. I said Dexter Lawrence earlier about the Cowboys. It was DeMarcus Lawrence. My goodness, I'm so sorry.
Did you say Dexter Lawrence earlier? I heard you say DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah, I said Dexter Lawrence. I forgive you people listening, but Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle for the Giants, who is arguably the best D tackle in the league next to Quentin Williams, and of course, you have guys like Aaron Donald still. But Dexter Lawrence steps up.
You mean Leonard Williams, not Quentin Williams?
Not Quentin Williams.
Are we?
Yeah, I'm saying like he's like one of the best D tackles in the league, like Dexter Lawrence, next to Quentin Williams, Aaron Donald. Okay. Yeah, like in that order. Okay. Yeah.
I misheard that.
Nah, they're not together. If they were together, I'd be like, God damn, man, they might have the best defensive front seven in the league. But it'll be crazy. But anyways, now like they have a very good front seven. Kayvon Thibodeau, I expect them to take a big leap this year. You have Adoree Jackson. You bring in Deontay Banks, the rookie corner. I think this team is going to be very fun to watch offensively. There's a lot of solid pieces. I think this offense is going to be fast. They're going to be very efficient. And I think they're going to be able to stretch the ball down the field, given the fact that they did bring in the rookie Jalen Hyatt, the speedster out of Tennessee, who won the Biletnikoff. You have Darren Waller, who's going to be a huge piece in this offense this year. Huge. I'm talking about like he might bounce back to being Darren Waller that we saw for the Raiders when he was a Pro Bowler, right? I think this offensive line is going to be even better this year, led by Andrew Thomas. You would expect Evan Neal to have a better year too, because last year he was pretty horrible, but he showed at times last year that he was improving. So you expect a big jump from year two from Evan Neal. Saquon Barkley has his 1-year deal, of course. Daniel Jones is back together. So you throw in Paris Campbell, who they picked up. You still have Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard. I mean, they don't have a true wide receiver one, but they have a good complementary guys that can be solid, right? So, and Brian Daboll is going to be able to figure out ways to put up points on the board because he's a very good offensive mind, in my opinion. So, I think this Giants team, even though they have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, I think they're going to be a very solid team. I think defensively they're going to be even better than they were last year. And I think Daniel Jones, I think he needs to be better than what he was last year for sure. I think Daniel Jones gives you back. He gets back to being that 26 touchdown, 25 touchdown, 10 interception guy this year. Maybe even less than that because he's shown that he has been very efficient this year, last year, and also the preseason. So, We'll see, but I'm not opposed to the Giants, getting to the wild card, the playoffs, and making some noise like they've done in years past. Right? They've been a
Hmm.
team to get to the wild card and make championship runs. Not saying they will, but
Hmm.
I think they'll get back into the playoffs for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this division in general, when you talk about the NFC East and most notably, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles, but with the Giants in general, it's a very, very good and complete division, top to bottom. I like Daniel Jones a lot. I like what he showed in his first season under Brian Dable. We obviously know he did phenomenal things, like I said, with Josh Allen, and his time in Buffalo helped to develop and groom him a lot. And then you just look at this Giants team in general. You talk about the receivers. They obviously retained Saquon Barkley back. That was huge for this offense, even though they just cut James Robinson, I believe, yesterday. I think Darren Waller does kind of get back into form, but I think for me, outside of their defense really taking a step up, big shout out to Joe Schoen, their GM, who did a phenomenal job with this roster this offseason. When you talk about all the additions, obviously acquiring Isaiah Simmons for a 7th-round pick, I think he finds a home with the New York Giants. I just don't like this wide receiver core. And maybe I'm being extremely nitpicky, but when you talk about a very good division, I mean, this is by far the worst wide receiver core in the division, and that's fine. That's fine because I do believe in Brian Dable, but I don't know if this offense, in my opinion, is going to be high-powered enough in order to keep up with some other really good teams in the NFC, and especially within the division. I do still think the Giants are a very good team, and I expect this defense to be extremely good. I really like this defense, and I'm a huge believer in Deonte Banks. I think he ends up being the best cornerback out of this entire class. I've said that pre-draft process. I still believe it. I still believe Deonte Banks is that guy. Like this defense a lot. Love their front seven, of course, but I'm not sure if I believe in their wide receiver core. I still think Daniel Jones has a solid season. I just have some personal reservations when it comes to the New York Giants. But let's kind of wrap up and talk about the last team in the NFC East. I think a team that everyone believes is probably the best team in the NFC, arguably next to the San Francisco 49ers, in the Philadelphia Eagles. 3 points short, or I guess 4 points short of winning last year's Super Bowl. They had their opportunities. Jalen Hurts probably doesn't fumble that ball. Maybe they win that Super Bowl over the Kansas City Chiefs. Darien, talk to me about this Philadelphia Eagles team. They lost some coordinators this offseason. Jalen Hurts now has even more expectations going onto his shoulders into year 4. Year 4 now with this Philadelphia Eagles team, man. Talk to me. What are you expecting from this team this year, man?
I think they can get back to where they left off last year. I really think they can get back to the championship game. They have a very, very stacked roster. They have a well put together offense. Defensively, they're younger than they were last year, but you're expecting the young guys to step up and take that lead. You have your N'Kobe Dean is going to replace TJ Edwards. You have your Jordan Davis is going to replace Javon Hargrave. You have Jalen Carter. You have Nolan Smith, the rookie, coming off the edge alongside Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. You have Darius Slay and James Bradbury still. The safeties are a little bit concerning given the fact that you lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You have to rely on some young guys like Reed Blankenship, maybe Kavon Wallace if he's still around there, I think. Maybe you might even play someone like Keely Ringo in that safety position, I would think, because he's more fitted as a safety in this league, in my opinion. But this defense is still going to be
Edmonds
fine.
not a bad player either still, but
You said what?
Terrell Edmonds.
I talked about it the other day. I figured they picked up the Edmonds brother. Okay, Terrell Edmonds is a very solid safety. He came from Pittsburgh, so
Serviceable.
Yeah, and then you had the offensively. I think they're going to be fine, even though they lost both of their coordinators, and Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. I want to say Brian Johnson, the old quarterback coach from the Florida Gators, is calling their offense this year, and he's been getting raved about a lot. So he was a quarterback coach during Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts their last season together, and he had that offense humming. So I think this offense is
beautiful
going to be
Gators football to watch, man.
Yeah, he is going to be a very good coordinator for this team. I think he can be a head coach in this league soon. But I think he's going to be able to lead the way for these guys. Jalen Hurts, we're entering year 4 now for him. I'm expecting another MVP type season. The run game is still going to be very stout. You have DeAndre Swift, who brings more versatility, in my opinion, in comparison to Miles Sanders out the backfield with receiving ability. But I mean, you still have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins. I mean, this Dallas guy. I mean, this team is going to be spectacular, man. Say what you want about Nick Sirianni, but he still is he's proven that he's a very, very good head coach in this league. So, I think this team is going to be right back in the thick of things, and it's a championship at least, just like the 49ers, in my opinion, and we could possibly get a rematch, a healthy rematch, you know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, this Philadelphia Eagles team to me, best team in the NFC. I think if they're healthy, I think they get back to the Super Bowl. They're easily my pick to come out of the NFC this year. Obviously, the condition is everyone's got to stay healthy, and especially when you talk about Jalen Hurts. I talked about this with you briefly outside of the pod, but I wanted to say it here on the pod. I truly believe that what we're seeing from Jalen Hurts in his first 3 years in the NFL, now going into year 4, and what he's already accomplished and how this guy has consistently gotten better at every single level. When you talk about his days, going from Alabama, getting benched in the national championship game, going to Oklahoma, and then coming into the NFL as a second round pick in Philadelphia with Doug Peterson, eventually taking Carson Wentz's job, and how we've continuously seen this guy grow as a leader, as an athlete, and as a quarterback, continuously getting better. This guy is, to me, the Allen Iverson of Philadelphia in the football terms of what we've seen. A guy who really embraces what it means to be a Philadelphia athlete. I think he brings that kind of moxie and that swagger and that leadership quality, those kind of intangibles that you can't just teach. A guy like Carson Wentz just doesn't have that in him. And I think, like I said, Jalen Hurts really embraces what it means to be a top dog Philadelphia athlete. And he's going to consistently get guys to rally around him. I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy, always been. And I'm very happy to see this guy succeeding. I like this team a lot. Defensively, I mean, the Philadelphia Bulldogs, we know how loaded this team is too. You talked about it, Quez Watkins, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, obviously Dallas Goedert. Their offensive line is what? The best in the NFL, top 2, whatever you want to say. I like this team a lot. I have no reservations when it comes to them. I think that they should have won last year's Super Bowl, but of course, you know, Patrick Mahomes and them, they're going to do their thing nonetheless. And this Eagles team, to me, man, they're getting back to the Super Bowl. They're going to be a top 2 team in the NFL this upcoming season. I got no worries when it comes to this team. But let's go ahead and actually do a division and record prediction really quickly when we talk about the NFC East. Darien, give me 1 through 4 where you think these teams are going to fall within the division this year.
All right, so 1 through 4. Number 1, I had the Philadelphia Eagles finishing 13-4, like we talked about, man. I think this team is going to get back to where they left off last year, man. I think NFC Championship is the floor for them. They should be back in that conference championship game. Number 2, I have the Dallas Cowboys. I haven't been 1 game behind, 12-5. I think the Dallas Cowboys.
Damn.
I know you mentioned they have no chance of making it to the championship this year, but I think they do. Like I said, I think this is the most talented Dallas Cowboys team we've seen since that 96 season, man, in my honest opinion, bro. This team is stacked from top to bottom. That Prescott, the pressure's on you. My McCarthy's, the pressure's on you as well. But I think you guys can come together this season, implement some, Trey Lance run packages here and there. Tony Pollard, the run game. The defense still stays together with Dan Quinn, to keep up the high intensity. 12-5 this year, and I think they can get to the conference championship as well. The Giants, I have them finishing 10-7. I think they finished 3rd in this division, but I'm not counting them out, man. Very solid team, defensively and offensively. Daniel Jones, a big season for him, of course. He got the contract extension he wanted, but now it's time to put the numbers. Saquon Barkley. I mean, you want to be the highest paid running back in the NFL? Show us this year, man, what you can. Can you get back to being the number 1 rusher in the league, right? Can you put up over 1,700 yards all purpose, from scrimmage? So, that's my take on that. And then for the 4th team, I have the Commanders finishing 7-10. I do believe they'll be a very fun team. They'll be good to watch, but I think they're just, in comparisons to the other 3 teams in their division, I think they're still a step behind, man. Most notably because I think Ron Rivera will be coaching for his life this year. You know what I'm saying? And, it's kind of hard to expect a year 2 quarterback in Sam Howell to get his team to a playoff game. So I think the other 3 quarterbacks in this division have better teams, in my opinion, and they'll be representing the NFC for the playoffs, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not too far off when it comes to our division ranking. So let me go down my personal list. NFC East, number 1 team in the NFC and the number 1 team in the NFC East in general. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles. I got them finishing 14-3 this upcoming season in the regular season. Number 2, I got the Dallas Cowboys, 12-5 this upcoming season. So we both got them at 12-5. But like I said, I don't believe in this team getting to the NFC Championship game. They're good for 1 playoff win. You can count them in for that. They're going to lose in the divisional round, whether that's to Seattle, Philadelphia, San Francisco, whoever that may be. They're not getting to the conference championship game. Number 3, I've got the Washington Commanders finishing 3rd in the NFC East this year at 9-8. I do expect Sam Howell to have a very good season. I do. I expect Eric Bieniemy and Ron Rivera to coach their absolute asses off. I like their wide receiver core a whole lot. I like their defense being healthy this year. And I believe in really just Ron Rivera, and I believe in Eric Bieniemy coming together and making something special happen with this offense. And then number 4, I got the New York Giants. I got them finishing 9-8 as well too. I believe in that defense. I believe in Brian Dable. I like Daniel Jones a lot, and he deserved his money after what he proved last season. Let's see if he can follow it up. Like I said, my big reservation with this New York Giants team really does come down to that wide receiver core. I don't think this offense is going to be high-powered enough, even if their defense can hold people to 20 to 24 points a game, which is very capable for that defense. I don't know if I still believe in this offense to be sustainable enough on a week in and week out basis to keep up with a lot of high-powered offenses in the game. But I both got the Commanders and the Giants at 9-8. I just think the Commanders get the tiebreaker over the New York Giants this season. And the last thing I want to say about this is every year we see with the NFL, about 3 or 4 teams that made the postseason the previous year don't make it the next year as well too. I think the Giants just end up being one of those teams. I think the Commanders sneak in there and they go in there and they, maybe even win a playoff game this year. I really like this roster a lot. What were you going to say? It sounds like you got something to say.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I was going to get transition to the segment of the who's going to have the better season. But before I get into that, who are some teams that you think, just off the top of your head, I'm going to name you a few that didn't make the playoffs last year that can make it this year? You have the New Orleans Saints, you have the Denver Broncos, the Colts, Texans, the Commanders. You have the Rams, of course. You have the Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers. Out of all those teams I just named real quickly, I know there's more, but who can make the playoffs that didn't make it last year? Also, the New York Jets as well.
Yeah, well, so I'll say off the top of my head, I think teams that could potentially make the playoffs this year that didn't make it last year. 1, I'm definitely counting the Jets in. 2, I'm going to be confident and say the Commanders. I really am going to believe in this team this upcoming season. 3, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be sneaky good as well too, even in a loaded AFC North. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers make the postseason, but they're going to be one of those teams that's going to be in that conversation. And then obviously the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to make it. So I'm going to say in that division, it'll probably be the New Orleans Saints. So probably 3 teams right there I could confidently say have a very good chance. I'll say the New Orleans Saints, the Washington Commanders, and the New York Jets are going to be 3 teams that didn't make it in the postseason last year that'll make it this upcoming season. What about you?
New York Jets for sure. New Orleans Saints, I have them winning the division. I have the Jets finishing second place, so they'll get in there. I've said in the preseason that the Pittsburgh Steelers had no chance of making it this year. They've showed me they can definitely be a threat this year, but I still think Cleveland's a better team. So I have Cleveland getting it. And then for my 4th team, I would say probably
Saints, Panthers,
I already said the Saints.
Falcons?
The Falcons have a good chance because I think anybody in the NFC South can really get there besides the Carolina Panthers right now. So I would probably say I was going to lean Denver, but I think Denver's going through so much injuries right now. We'll get into that later in the podcast down the weeks. But I would say Atlanta. Atlanta could be the 4th team that could possibly get into the playoffs that didn't make it last year. So we'll see.
All right, very well so. We'll see. But let's go ahead and do who's going to have a better season in the NFC East. Darien, give me a player and let's go down this.
Yeah, so this player, I spoke about him briefly. We didn't go into depth about him because the podcast, we don't make it too long, right? We spent too much time talking about the damn Cowboys. But the player I have who is in question is Saquon Barkley, right?
Okay.
Contract year. Big year for Saquon Barkley, man. So I'm going to ask you, will he have a better season to certain running backs in this division? Then I'll ask you, of course, the Pro Bowl and, all-pro team question at the end. All right, so will Saquon Barkley have a better season than DeAndre Swift? Now, keep in mind, DeAndre Swift is going to have a very good offensive line this year, and he can definitely be a top 4 rusher in this league. So better season, Barkley or Swift?
I'm going to say Barkley because he means a lot more to that Giants offense, but DeAndre Swift is going to have a hell of a season. He didn't really get a fair opportunity in Detroit, if you ask me.
I got you. All right, Saquon or Tony Pollard?
Saquon Barkley. That's a tough one, but Saquon. It's a hard one to answer, but it's Saquon still.
Tony's been getting a lot of fantasy love this year, man. All right, Saquon or Brian Robinson?
Saquon. It's gonna be Saquon again.
Okay.
It's still a tough one.
Okay. It's kind of tough if you think about it, and not for really Brian Robinson.
It really is.
But those other 2 running backs I named, I mean, it can get weird. Okay. All right. So, will Saquon Barkley be a Pro Bowl this year? Will he be a Pro Bowler this year? Will he be making All-Pro team? And what will be his final stats?
Saquon will be a Pro Bowler, 1, because of the likeliness of his name, and everyone knows the kind of hype and aura that's around a guy like Saquon Barkley. No, he does not have an All-Pro caliber season, even though he is in a contract year, and he still deserves his money. Absolutely. I'm going to pump the brakes on that just because I think what ultimately goes into effect is, yes, Saquon Barkley is the most vital part of this offense. Obviously, Daniel Jones is very dependent, and this offense is very dependent on Saquon Barkley running that football and coming out of the backfield. But This Giants team, I still think, is going to finish at the bottom of the division.
Mhm.
That might affect some voters in terms of all-pro voting, even though it is a team sport.
Mhm.
But I like Saquon Barkley to still have a very good Pro Bowl caliber season. I could see still Saquon going out there close to 1,500 yards scrimmage. I could still see him getting 10 to 12 touchdowns this season.
Mhm.
He's going to be electric. We know the kind of worker and the kind of work ethic that Saquon Barkley has. We know the talent is there. He stays healthy. This Giants offense is going to be a lot more respectable. He's going to be the engine that kind of gets everything running for this team. Saquon Barkley is extremely talented. He's still going to have a phenomenal year if he stays healthy.
If he does all those things with the stats plus the accolades, I think he's definitely. I mean, how can you not make him the highest paid running back in the NFL, in my opinion? Especially if he gives you another healthy, full 17, 16 game season. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely in that. They're there for conversation. Do you have Saquon Pro Bowl, All Pro this year?
I have Saquon Pro Bowl, given the fact of his name. Like I said, the aura he brings to this game. Pro Bowl year, given the fact that you have CMC out there in the NFC, you have, the possibilities of, Tony Pollard could have a big year. I'm trying to think of anybody else out there. Aaron Jones could have a big year as well. I'm trying to think of any other good running backs in the conference. DeAndre Swift, like I said, I think DeAndre Swift's going to have a big, big year. I mean, the Eagles
have a huge year in this Philadelphia offense.
The Eagles' offensive line is one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL, and I think DeAndre Swift can definitely be a top 4 rusher in the league. Majority of the big time rushers come out the AFC, so I think Saquon can have an All-Pro year. I think he'll make like All-Pro second team at least.
That's very valid, and I think he's very capable of doing that. Obviously, we know the talent's there.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say enough about Saquon too off the field. I mean, the kind of character that he is, obviously the worker. I mean, he's just such a special, gifted, talented running back. Like, when was the last time, maybe Ezekiel Elliott, but even obviously Saquon had more hype coming out of college at Penn State than Zeke really did at Ohio State. Like, when was the last time we really saw a running back get this kind of like generational hype? Like, this guy is different coming into the NFL, and obviously he was taken number 3 overall. Like, was Zeke probably the last guy that we were all like, no doubt this guy's going to come in and just dominate? I mean, maybe Bijan Robinson, but even then, like, we know he's going to be good, but the hype is just surreal when it came to Saquon coming into the NFL in 2018.
Well, you got to think a lot of running backs didn't get drafted in the top 10 like that, and I think Ezekiel Elliott definitely.
Zeke, Leonard Fournette in 2017.
Fournette the following year. So Zeke kind of put the trend of running backs getting drafted in the top 10. You had Zeke,
Bijan Robinson this past season.
Bijan this past year. You had, of course, I think Todd Gurley might have been top 15. And then you had Saquon. So also you have to date back to being Ricky Williams, more likely to be the last running back before Zeke to go top 5 or top 10. I would say. I think Ricky Williams might have been the second overall pick, or maybe 4th, something like that. He went really high. It might have been someone in between that time as well. I can't think of any running backs at the top of my head right now.
Too, yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, like, you rarely see running backs get drafted in the top 4, and if they are, man, that means they're going to be the real deal. So, shout out to Saquon, man. I think he's going to have a big, big year this year, and I think he can. Hopefully, he does enough to get his pay he is due next year, man, for sure.
Yeah, because I think you're going to see if he's a little bit banged up, and obviously we don't wish that on him. You're going to see this Giants offense struggle. You really are. Even with Brian Dable and Daniel Jones being able to be capable and holding it down, Saquon's so important to this team, and I think he's obviously a generational running back when he's healthy and he's on the field.
Yeah,
but man, It's been a great pod, man. NFC West, NFC East talks today. By the time next week's pod comes around, we're going to be in preparation for Thursday Night Football, the Detroit Lions at Arrowhead Stadium. So I'm sure we're going to be talking some NFC North and some AFC West football in preparation for week 1, and just really kind of going over what we expect for week 1 football, man. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know me and you are excited for our Jag season, man. It's just football to be back, man. You hype?
Yeah, man. Next week's episode might be kind of jam-packed because we got to kind of clear these divisions. You know what I'm saying? We're probably not going to go.
Real quick.
We're not going to do a whole spiel on them. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm excited, man. Week 1, the following week, we're going to do like week 1. We're going to also this year. You know what I'm saying? I want to discuss about like doing tallies for like week by week predictions and stuff like that. You know, me and you keep a track on and stuff like that to see.
Oh yeah.
And the
I'm
winner,
a cookie though. I'm a cookie.
We'll have a prize. The winner has to get something. The loser gets something as well. So
I bet.
We'll
next week we'll have something ready for the pod for the people.
Yeah, for sure, man. I also, wouldn't mind sprinkling some fantasy football this year, but we'll see.
Most definitely, man. You already know I got some fantasy leagues coming up this week, man. I got a draft, so
how many?
I'm already spending some money on that. Off the top of my head, right now I got 2 fantasy leagues. My Yahoo league, my ESPN league. I'm trying to maybe do a third league, but I'm thinking about just keeping it to the 2 because once I get into 3, it's like, all right, it's a lot to keep up with. But then also like,
If you do 3,
man,
let's do one for
I'd
the
be having
pod.
guys like, yeah, maybe we do a 3 for the pod, man. We got to discuss that too. We'll keep you guys posted on that on Twitter, YouTube, everywhere we go. We'll be talking about that off the pod, and then next week we'll have a better answer for you guys as well too. Cotton getting ready for week 1, man. But episode 3 officially in the books, man. NFC West, NFC East, preview, all of that good stuff, man. Getting ready for college football this week. It's going to be a great week, man. I hope y'all have a great week, man. Be safe out there, especially everybody out in Florida, man. Be safe out there with this hurricane coming through. I want everyone to be out there and just be good, be healthy, be safe, man. Enjoy your week. Let's all get ready for some football, man. And episode 3 is officially in the books, man. We'll catch you guys next week. And like always, man, don't overthink it.